Welcome to Feed Your Lion. I'm Dr. L.I.O.N, and I'm here to aid you in the mastery of total health, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, and financial. So prepare to have your wellness tank filled up with this podcast. Welcome to another episode of Feed Your Lion podcast. Today's special guest, Elaine Cruse, and we're going to talk about something interesting today, which I don't really know much about, so she's going to educate us all. So, embodied listening, that's your new, because you're a pharmacist by trade, but tell us all a little bit. Well, let's go back to the beginning. Like, how'd you get your start in pharmacy? What's kind of your background? And then we'll kind of transition into talking about this embodied listening and what that actually entails.
Sure. So I graduated from WVU as a pharmacist and spent many years in Tennessee. I did a residency at the University of Tennessee in community practice.
Okay.
And decided to come back home to Marshall and took a position at the pharmacy school and taught there for 9 years.
Okay.
And during that time, I learned about mindfulness and took a mindfulness-based stress reduction class, which was an 8-week class.
Was that like a accredited class from Marshall?
No. So I took the class through the University of Wisconsin because we don't have MBSR here.
I was going to say
that we really need to have.
Okay.
It's an evidence-based program, but
yeah.
When I took it at about week 4 of the 8-week class, I noticed how different I had become from participating in that program. Just a lot less reactive, a lot more observant, able to see what was going on.
So with the class, you took it, so it was like a distance learning thing.
Yes.
Okay, so what did they have you do as far as in that first 4 weeks that you were noticing this?
So we met for, I think, 2 hours a week in person as a group. And then we also had homework, which included meditations, particularly body scans in the beginning were very important. And then just sitting meditation, some yoga, all mindful practices.
What do you mean by body scan?
So a body scan is when you just pay attention to what's going on in different regions of your body.
Okay, so like I'm sitting here and say, I had jiu-jitsu practice earlier, so, maybe my shoulder's a little like off feeling. So I would notice that. Like, is it more like pain related or just like any sensation?
It's you just direct your attention to different areas of your body, just noticing them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you do anything like I'm not good at this, so like I'm gonna probably have you like really break stuff down into really simple forms because I am not good at like the mindfulness side sometimes, and I'm trying to be better about that. But with the noticing, do you do anything with that, or do you just notice and then?
I think it depends on what the goal of your practice that day is.
Okay.
So in that class, the goal of our practice was just to notice. It was just to notice.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then, so you said the meditations. Did they do specific meditation or did anything you wanted to do? Because there's all those.
There were lots of like guided meditations, but then I think there were times to sit in stillness too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And yoga, you said anything else?
Mindful yoga, yes. So that was I still use their video, their recording of mindful yoga.
What's the difference between mindful and like a regular like?
So there's lots of periods of time where you are just noticing again.
Really?
Yeah, that's what it's about. It's just being in the moment and noticing what's going on.
Okay.
But it was striking how much it changed just my baseline of how I operated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you said you were 4 weeks in and you started noticing like you were observing more things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What happened by the end of the 8 weeks?
It stayed that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see any improvements like in like work or anything else that you were doing?
I think I started making different decisions, like seeing more possibilities for my life. Yeah, I think that's when I became more certain that I wanted to do this work and helping people to find mindfulness because it had helped me so much.
That's awesome. So Okay, I want to go back a little bit more. So, because you had a lot of experience before you even did this, like course and things like this. So, when you're doing a pharmacy, you're doing your typical, like, how many years is pharmacy school?
It depends. It
Okay.
changes, but it's a doctoral degree, and I had 4 years of undergrad and then 4 years of pharmacy school.
And then you said you went to Tennessee after that.
Yeah.
And so was that more like a residency type of thing?
Yeah.
And with pharmacy, how many like different types of, because that's totally different with medicine, but like you can do like what, retail and hospital, like what is there?
Yeah, so there's a lot. There's the postgraduate year 1 and postgraduate year 2 residencies where the second year is more specialized. I did one just in community practice, and that was all.
Okay.
But yeah, you could do hospital, you can do lots of specializations.
So when you say community practice, can you work out of any like office type thing too with that, or how does that?
So yeah, it can be kind of a stepping stone to other things. Like I don't think that I would have been successful as a teacher had I not done the residency.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it qualifies you to do a lot more clinical things out in the community. For example, I'm also a certified diabetes educator.
Okay.
So yeah, things. But yeah, ambulatory patients. But ambulatory care is kind of separate. That would be a PGY2 residency.
Okay, so you have to go a little longer to be able to do.
Yeah, there's just lots of different.
No, that's kind of interesting because I mean, I've talked to, pharmacists before, but not like breaking down like, so is it hard to like, is it kind of with pharmacy, is you just apply to what you want to do for a residency if you're interested? Because you don't have to do that, right?
Right, you don't have to.
What are your options if you don't like go further with the training?
Just applying for different positions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's more like on the job type training if you're.
Yep.
So when you apply, is it pretty competitive or do you get in pretty, like, is it easier to get into?
I think it depends. It's a lot different now, probably. I graduated in 2003. So
Gotcha.
I don't know. It might be more competitive now.
Okay. All right. And you wanted to go to Tennessee then?
Yeah.
I love did. Tennessee.
We enjoyed it.
It's pretty state, like it really is. But okay. So when you came back, you started working. You're from Huntington originally?
I'm from Morgantown.
Okay, Morgantown. Yep. So for those of you not knowing, that's not that far from.
No.
It's West Virginia, and you're West Virginia born and bred, school and all. All right. So Marshall, where did you work? Like, was that like at the, and they're like, where at in Marshall? Like, cause in the like actually school side or?
Yeah, so I worked for the school of pharmacy. I was a faculty member, and we started out. We were in the building at the VA there.
Yeah.
And then we moved downtown.
Okay.
I think 2019 we moved downtown.
And you said 9 years of that.
9 years, yeah.
What made you want to reach out and do like this extra learning? Like, did you have an experience or something, or what like stroked your interest in the mindfulness?
Yeah, so I've always had a rough time, especially around this time of year with depression. I've always had a lot of anxiety, and so I've always been searching for tools to help me with that. And mindfulness was something that really made a big difference.
How did you find that? What though? Is it? You said Wisconsin?
Yeah. I think I was also doing dialectical behavior therapy at the time.
What's that?
So
it is. You've kind of been all over the place. I love it.
It was invented by a person named Marsha Linehan.
Okay.
She's got a book. She basically grew up having a lot of psychiatric issues and put together a whole toolkit on how to deal with things, because as she got better, she started working as, I think, a psychologist.
Okay.
And she put together this skills-based curriculum that's evidence-based. They have a DBT group at Valley Health.
So what's the actual main, like, what do they do? What's their purpose with that?
So to get people that are really depressed and or suffering from eating disorders, to get them functioning and well again.
What modes do they use? Is it like more of like a cognitive behavioral therapy, or is it like completely different?
It's DBT, so it's dialectical behavior therapy. So, wow, I didn't know we were going to talk about
I know. I pop things on you. I told you, I kind of roll. It's just like, I know.
So there are lots of different skills. There are skills to regulate emotions.
Okay.
That's a big part of DBT.
Okay.
Mindfulness. There are different modules. I think there are like 6 of them.
Okay.
Emotion regulation, mindfulness, just like basic decision making, and always trying to be dialectical and see both sides of things.
Okay.
Non-judgment, just the facts.
Okay.
Like there's a whole workbook. It's amazing stuff.
That's more than I knew because I'm not aware of that. So see.
Yeah. So in DBT, you meet in a group once a week.
Okay.
And you practice mindfulness. I remember the first time I practiced mindfulness in DBT, I thought I was going to have a heart attack and die. Like I was like, could not, like my chest was hurting. Of course, I was worried. I was also a faculty member at a school of pharmacy, and I was terrified that a student was going to walk by and find me out.
Really?
Yes. So now here I am on a podcast talking about it.
Okay, but you know what? That brings up a whole other thing of these stigmas people have. Like, how many times, like, do we not reach out for help for things because of the judgment or afraid of that stigma?
Yep.
Even in like medical charts or any of that stuff, some people don't ever because of that. Right. You know what I mean?
That's true.
And then I think sometimes we go way far the other way and everybody has everything and on every med in the world. So I you know what I mean? I think there's a balance, but I do think there's a lot of like really good people that are like struggling with something and they're afraid to get help for some of that.
Absolutely. And I think that's really true in our healthcare professionals right now that are suffering from burnout and psychiatric things that they don't want to report.
I can tell you when I was working and completely burnout in the ER, like, I mean, it was toxic and I hated my life when I was like doing that full time. I mean, great people, but I would have never said anything to anybody about it. I just like fix it myself and go on, because you don't do that. Like, you know what I mean? You don't admit that you need some like kind of help, or like that's just not a thing. Like, you know, so I totally agree. I mean, I can tell you that's a thing.
There's a group called Medicine Forward that is trying to really, they're trying to change the patient-physician relationship and make it a relationship again. Yeah. And they're really focusing on burnout and getting people the help that they need because of so many suicides that 100%. Are happening.
Yeah. So I got off topic there because I wanted to circle back to what we were talking about. That's good. That's what I do. I apologize for that. But so that just reminded me, I said I apologize for that. And that reminded me of our leadership meeting when we're not supposed to do that.
That's right.
Elaine and I actually met in this leadership thing, and it's these amazing women from all over the tri-state area. They get together once a month. So if you guys are in the tri-state and a woman, doesn't matter what you do, you're more than welcome. We do the second Tuesday of every month. Around 5:30 at different locations. It's on Facebook, but I want to put that plug in there because it's a great group if you're in the tri-state area and want to join us once a month. But we just get together and share, and they were just talking about how we do like self-effacing things, and a part of that was apologizing too much for just existing, right?
Yes, we use diminishing language.
Yes. That was the topic. So anyways, I was just, see, side note again.
You caught yourself.
Squirrel, I did catch myself. We had to put a little, what are those?
A bead?
A bead. Yeah, we had to put a little bead in a jar anytime we said anything with diminishing language, so, or made ourselves smaller, so that's kind of funny. But anyway, so you first experienced that, and you had basically a panic attack.
Yeah.
Sitting in stillness kind of thing.
I did.
Yeah.
And it's rough.
And it was more about that concern for the outside pressure, or like the outside, or was it internal, do you think?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy. But you were like, I got to go back for more of this and figure this out.
Well, I mean, I just had to keep showing up for that group every week, and we did it every week. And so you kind of got used to it.
So that was a part of their weekly, even though it was like a one part of their. Okay.
That we practice mindfulness every time at the beginning of DBT group.
Okay.
And yeah, I noticed after a while, we would also, after we did our practice, whatever it was, you would go around the room and say, during my practice, I noticed whatever it was. And I found that to be really powerful, to like be able to say, well, I noticed that my chest hurted and I wanted to get the hell out of here.
Did anybody else in the group have that like reaction to it?
I don't think it was an uncommon thing for people. That was my first week. I think that happens a lot for people when they start.
So when you were in the group, when they had you practice it, was it just sitting in stillness, and like how did they do their mindfulness practice?
I think we were paying attention to our breath.
Okay.
Yeah, just watching the breath.
Well,
which I can do now without having a panic attack.
I can see that though, because if you're thinking about it, sometimes you're going to be breathing quicker and like, you know what I mean? Like it's not the unconscious effort anymore. It's like,
yeah,
I don't know. I think that could be harder to do. But okay, so after you did that, did you notice anything in that group, or you just felt like you needed more of a study on it?
Yeah, the group helped me and the skills helped me a lot. I often think I need to go back and revisit those skills and see. I'm sure that I still use them and I don't know that I'm using them. It was really helpful.
Okay. So now it brings us like closer to today. So now you're doing your own embodied listening thing.
Right. So after I left DBT and left Marshall to go get a mindfulness coaching certification, that was through the DHHR in West Virginia, funded 24 of us to go through this mindfulness coaching program. And it was an 8-month program.
Okay.
And we met at Canaan Valley about halfway through. Our whole cohort was there. And one of the facilitators that came was from Canada. And she was also a facilitator for a program in Canada that uses ketamine-assisted. It's a ketamine-assisted resiliency program.
Okay.
And when I met her and heard about this and read the studies that she had, I was like, I need to go do that. And so I did that in 2023, January 2023.
So were you done with the 8-month program when you went and did this?
I was on the tail end of it.
You were on the end of it. Okay.
Yep.
So you were your 24 cohort. You were sponsored through the school to do this.
So no, the West Virginia Department of Health and Human Services. Yeah, they funded it, and it was made up of first responders as well as a lot of therapists, psychologists. But the goal of the program is to get mindfulness training to all of our first responders. Yeah, we have a grant right now. The Benedum Foundation funded a grant for us to train EMS personnel in 7 counties in northern West Virginia.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
Okay, so the grant and things, how long does the training take when you're doing that?
So right now we're doing 4 to 8 hour trainings, but I think the goal for this program is to make sure that we're having contact with people on an ongoing basis instead of just, here's what mindfulness is, have at it.
Yeah.
So,
not letting them fall off as much, like following up. Yeah. Okay, so the Canada thing. So you heard about this woman through the 8-month program.
Yes. So I heard about the program in Canada, which is a huge multidisciplinary program that they put together for their healthcare professionals that are having burnout that started with COVID.
Really?
Yes. I was in cohort, I can't remember what number it was, but they've had like 20 some cohorts go through now.
So they, it's kind of funny with COVID. A lot of stuff came out. Like, I mean, even like I do a lot of telehealth. So that like boomed during COVID too. And then you see a lot more of this kind of stuff too. Like in a lot more of the natural side, I think blossomed out.
That's true.
Don't you think during COVID? I mean,
probably.
I think people were looking for alternatives on a lot of this stuff. They were. I think people got frustrated with the Western medicine a little bit during COVID, and I mean, I don't know. That's just my. observation, I think people were starting to look a little more. I think like natural and holistic medicine seems to be coming out a lot more, and I think people are looking for more alternatives, and I think COVID kind of pushed that a little bit more, but I don't know. So they've been taking groups of people through this program in Canada. How long were you there?
So I went there for 5 weeks. It's a 12-week program, but most of it is done on Zoom, except for the medicine sits. Mm-hmm. So when you go and have ketamine in ceremony in a group with healthcare professionals there.
So did they have like spiritual people there too besides the ketamine? Like
yeah, so the indigenous people, the First Nations people of Canada influenced the program a lot.
That's awesome.
They were there. Yeah.
My wife would love this. Like she's all she like, you know, does a lot of that like natural like medicine man, medicine woman, like shamanic, like so she would be very fascinated to hear. I mean,
it was such a nice blend of people because, you know, there was a psychiatrist there, there were energy workers there, all in the room for this.
See, how cool would it be to like get that and like just do that on so many levels, like have this combination thing, because it is not a one size fits all for a lot, and to have like all those people from all those spaces coming together. What a cool experience.
It was. Yeah.
Okay, so they did, like, now, was this like, so let's talk about ketamine for a minute, because some people might not at all be familiar. So ketamine's a dissociative agent. It can be abused. It can be like a party drug type of thing, but they've found a ton of benefits from this in smaller doses. When I was in the ER, I would use smaller doses, and this is even smaller what you're talking about, but I would use smaller doses for like, and you know, intractable headaches, that kind of thing. There are ketamine clinics now around all over the place that use very small doses, and they're treating people with refractory depression who may have failed like regular typical antidepressants or several antidepressants. They're using it for different types of pain syndromes that are not responsive to typical things, and so those are typically looking like, from my research, because I thought about doing a lot of that in here at some point, but they're using like, you know, they'll do 6 infusions. They're usually over 45 minutes. They'll do 6 of those in like 2 weeks as like a bolus kind of dosing. And then people are just getting a 45-minute infusion like once every 3 to 6 months in that kind of setting. So talk about a little bit how they're using that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, what kind of dosing they're doing and over what time and stuff.
So in the program that I attended, it was an IM injection.
Okay.
And I think there were people around, you know, in the U.S. doing IM injections too.
Yeah.
And I think that's easier when you have a group of people too.
Yeah.
Like to
watch
logistically speaking too.
Sure.
But yeah, anywhere from 0.5 to 1.5 milligrams per kilogram.
And that's a little bit higher than, because I think they were doing like 0.3, you know, over the 45. So that's a little bit of a high, like a little slightly higher, because you can induce people for like intubation and stuff like a little bit over that. So that's a little bit, but with an IM injection, it's going to take a little bit. Right. So. Yeah. So what did you notice with all of that? Like how are people responding?
So in my group?
Yes. Yeah.
Like it was just life-changing. I mean, it's a mind-manifesting drug, right? Mm-hmm. So you have, in that non-ordinary state of consciousness, you have kind of revelations about things. And I think that preparing for that experience and then integrating what happens afterwards is the most important part. So that's why being in that, they call it a community of practice, is so important.
Okay, so your preparation before you actually did was that the online part before you went, or did you actually do that on site too?
Yeah, we did it online.
Okay.
But every week, and there's a certain framework that's followed in the group so that everyone has a certain amount of time to speak, and then they have time to be witnessed. So that's where the embodied listening that we were talking about comes up. So that's why I've been doing these embodied listening workshops to kind of explain what that is, and that's used in the group.
We had to do a brief reset because Elaine got freezing over here. She's not used to my cold-blooded, or my warm-blooded nature over here, I should say. But anyway, so, okay. You guys had, like you said, were designated time, so you were being witnessed, and then you were embodied listening to other people. What kind of things in the preparation did they have you work through? Like, did they have specific things they wanted you to do to prepare for the ceremony, or how did that go?
Yeah, I mean, there was a time to set intentions for what you were hoping to learn from the experience. So setting intentions, coming up with what your pillars of strength are. When you're in the medicine, to be reminded of,
Wow.
Like for me, it was my family, my community, connection to nature, like wanting to remember those things. And we would even like put that on a Post-it note. So after we had ketamine, if somebody was struggling, the people in the room could remind you of those things.
Really?
Yeah.
So when you got to that place, like, was it a scary thing? Was it how was it when you were actually in it?
So the first time I was really nervous. We were all really nervous. They did a great job of making sure things were very calm. They asked us to really not talk to each other a lot beforehand, and they met us at the door. To take us to have our blood pressure. They'd take us one person at a time to have our blood pressure taken and everything. But somebody else would meet us to get our things to carry in there for us. And then I'll never forget walking into the room after I had my blood pressure taken, and the psychiatrist is sitting there meditating, and the other facilitators are sitting there meditating. Nobody's talking, everything's calm, and there's just a very peaceful energy in the room, and that's important if you're going to have ketamine.
Man, I think I would be freaked out. Like, I'm just thinking, like, from a person who like sometimes I'll talk when I'm nervous too. So like to have to like be in the stillness of it and be nervous on top of it, I think that would
They told us what to expect so much. Like, we had a video of the facility. This is the door you'll come in. Like,
okay.
We knew to expect them to be sitting there, but I remember thinking, wow, that's cool. The psychiatrist is
sitting there meditating. Okay. Yeah. So during, when you were like on the ketamine, they talked to you during it, or no?
No, but they were always there. The energy workers would sometimes come around and like lay their hand on you. You had to give permission beforehand, before you had the medicine, whether you wanted anybody to touch you or not. So they could come around and do that.
Did they have anybody like spaz out that you know of?
Yeah, and they, as we did our ceremony in the beginning of it, they would say, you're going to notice you might notice other people having a difficult time. And if you do notice that, know that they're being taken care of. So yeah, I remember, there were several group members that had, just difficult emotions come up. But it wasn't bothersome at all.
Were you like, and this is kind of, I've never had ketamine, so like, were you aware during like what was happening, or were you out of it?
No, you're not aware, not in the beginning. Like, you come to and then you're aware, but no.
When you came to, did you remember the experiences that you had had?
Yes, some of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a dream thing?
People say that, but it seems more real than a dream, like.
Okay.
And more important, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then afterwards, during like the deprocessing, like how did that go? Like when they wanted you to, like, did you have to journal? Did you have to like, what did they have you do?
So we didn't have to do anything.
Okay. Okay.
So that was the whole point of the program. It's about having autonomy, right? So if you didn't want to speak that night, you didn't speak. If you didn't want to do whatever was suggested, you didn't do it. But yeah, some of the suggested things were to, just talk about your experience, especially right afterward and then in the next meeting. And they also had like time for emotional freedom technique or tapping. They would have extra sessions of that in between the ketamine.
So what is that? Explain that.
So we have meridians in our body. It's from ancient Chinese medicine. So you tap on them as you're feeling an emotion or thinking about something distressing. You tap on the different areas, like the top of your head, side,
Okay.
here. I probably missed one. And then here, yeah.
So you'd go all the way through them all. Okay.
Yeah.
How
but
long?
there was a leader that took you through that.
Oh.
I don't know how to do all of that, but
Okay.
I'm hoping that in my program, I've asked one of my friends who's certified in that to help us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how many rounds like how long did you wait, and how, like, you did multiple sessions, right?
It's 3 sessions, 2 weeks apart.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you were in Canada for a bit.
5 or 6 weeks. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what did it change in the second and third session? Was your experience different?
I feel like the second one like brought up a lot of difficult things and emotions. And sometimes I think they may have made the music. You listen to music while you're having ketamine. They may have made the music intentionally that way for the second one. I'm not sure. But yeah, each time was different. I'd almost have to, you're making me want to go dig up my journals and see what happened, because it has been 2 years. But yeah, the biggest things I knew, I remember in the second one, like knowing that it was part of my purpose to share this community model that I was now a part of back home. So
That's really cool.
yeah.
Is there anything specific that you want to share that you do, like, remember, or like anything that, like, I know you said like the community model, but is there anything like specific that you like took away from it that you do remember without having to?
Yeah, every time I had a sense that we are all connected and that we are held by something much bigger than any individual person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you notice, like you saying that, did you notice that, like, the people participating and the people that were facilitating, was there a lot of different religious beliefs and things? Like, did you notice that, or did you guys get into that at all?
I don't think that we did, but it was a very spiritual thing. So
Sure.
How can I even say that? I don't know, but I don't remember any organized religion being mentioned.
Yeah. So you mentioned the music. You didn't pick that then. They did all that.
Yep.
Did it start before you went into the, like, before the injection?
Yeah. We were all listening to it together, and it was on our headphones.
Okay. So when you're actually in there, were you in like what did they have you in, laying on the floor in a bed? Like,
Yeah,
'cause
we
you
were in the
monitored?
floor.
Oh, you were in
like,
the floor.
on a mat. Yeah.
Okay. And they had you on a monitor, I'm guessing? No?
No.
Okay. I mean, usually that's another thing. Like, ketamine doesn't typically suppress any respiratory or anything like that. So that's not usually a concern at, like, regular dosing. But I was just curious because I know, like, when I was looking into it for here, usually that was one of the only requirements, is that you had to have somebody on a monitor or something. So I was curious about that too. But okay, so you got your injection. You were laying on the floor. How long did it take to kick in, and how long was the experience typically?
Yeah, you kind of don't know
You
about
don't know.
time when that's.
I didn't know if, like,
Yeah.
if you knew, like, from start to end when you finished.
We were there in the building for 4 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
But
interesting.
a lot of the time was spent, again, in the circle before and after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do they recommend, besides those 3 that you did they have a recommendation for, like, continued things, or it was just kind of a one and done, like, in the 3 session there?
Yeah, so they have alumni groups, so you can continue your community, like, with a new group of people. And they also have, like, refresher packages where you can go and it includes both preparation and integration circles. So but they don't have like a recommendation for how often you should do it. It's whenever you think you should.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. So talk about now your program, like how you're starting, what you see, going forward, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So we're really excited. I've got a couple of people in Canada that are helping me. One of them was my buddy in the program.
Cool.
Yeah, I didn't mention that. We had buddies. And
Okay.
So every week we would email a check-in, like, this is what I'm feeling in my body, and this is what I notice with my emotions. And gradually we started to trust each other and started having like phone calls or Zoom calls. And we still meet every week and just do that process because it is so powerful.
Really?
Yeah. So her name is Sam. She's been helping with the embodied listening workshops that I've been doing. And
is she Canadian?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And
all right.
I have another friend from Canada who's a psychedelic assisted therapy person, and she's helping. And so, yeah, because you can't do this work on your own. That's part of the model, is that there need to be multiple people.
Yeah, involved. So what's Sam's background then?
So Sam is actually right now in the Vancouver Island University psychedelic assisted therapy program.
Okay.
So she'll graduate, I don't know, next year, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. That's like it's a cool world, an interesting world.
Yeah,
but,
she's a registered nurse.
okay. All right. So you're doing workshops. Is it Thursdays you're doing workshops?
So we're going to start Thursday, February 13th.
Okay.
And we will, learn a skill and practice embodied listening. And so we're going to do the first go round for 8 weeks, just getting things into place, and then we'll add ketamine in a future group.
Okay. So this is like you're taking like what you did in your online part from the Canadian program, and this is going to be like more. Are they going to have a buddy system there too? Or are they going to
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So some of the, like in the embodied listening, when you say that, what do you actually mean by embodied listening?
Yeah, so when you practice embodied listening, you're trying to give the person the message that I see you, you matter, and I'm here with you. That's all. So we're not giving advice. We're not cheerleading. We're not consoling. We are simply listening to what they said and telling them what that caused in our body.
Okay.
So they'll be given a prompt to share about.
Okay.
And everybody has 3 minutes to share on that prompt.
Okay.
And like we stop you at 3 minutes, so nobody's held captive to someone's 10-minute share.
Yeah, sure.
And it's predictable. It's, which is very trauma informed to stick to a protocol, right? So yeah, after the person shares, people have time to say, this is what happened for me.
Okay. And do they get like a 3-minute thing back, or is that just like whatever response they want to say?
Yeah, just whatever response.
Okay. So you're holding space and then like whatever reaction you had.
Mm-hmm. And knowing that it's a practice and we don't always get it perfect. It's
Okay.
a constant practice. Yeah.
And what does that do? Like, what are some of the benefits of embodied listening?
So that makes people feel seen and heard. And, we know that trauma, like after something traumatic happens to a person, something that mitigates the effects of that is if somebody's there with them and demonstrates that they care. Mm-hmm. So it's really not surprising to me that healing from trauma, that this is so powerful to help people heal from trauma, because people are there and they care.
Okay, that's awesome. You said too that something about does that change the brain? Like, I mean, how do you know the actual like how that works?
So, mindful practices change the neural pathways in the brain. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of cool to know that we have neuroplasticity and we can alter this. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
I think too, just hearing you say that, and then just so many things in health, I think people in a lot of ways sometimes feel powerless against some things, and it's physical too. and like to know like we can reverse a lot of these disease processes. We can reverse a lot of like damage done. You can't undo something that like happened to you, but you can certainly like how you react to it, and like you can heal yourself. Like there's plenty of ways to do that, and it may require a little outside the box thinking or a little something you may not have considered before. So I love that you're doing this, because I think you're really going to help a lot of people, and maybe some people that didn't really know or have like the steps to like start making that progress. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
So I think it's really cool. So tell everybody like how they can find you, where like if they're interested in doing the embodied listening workshops or like knowing more about this, like how can they find you and get a hold of you or join the program?
So I'll give you some links to post with it, but Cruse, CRUSE 03 @yahoo.com is the best way to email me. Okay. I'm on Facebook, and my business is called Unearthing Your Greatness. So you can find me that way.
That's awesome. So you said you're probably going to add in like the ketamine experience later, which is like, I mean, that's just that next step in that. So are you looking, I know you have the couple Canadians working with you, but are you looking to like, do you want to add more people to your team and grow that?
I would definitely, I'm looking for local people to help me on my team. And I've actually worked some with Rhonda Parker, who works at Mountain Healing as her business in Elkins. And she uses ketamine. But yes, I think it's going to be important for me to have good facilitators that are local to help me with the ketamine sits, especially.
Yeah.
And energy workers that can help me too.
I was going to say, we should definitely talk about that, because I probably know a couple people that'd be interested in that and helping you too. So that's awesome. Is there anything, as we kind of start wrapping up a little bit, is there anything that you want to mention about any of this, embodied listening, the ketamine, like mindfulness, that we didn't really hit on during this? Because I know I was kind of like, but I'm curious, because I think this is super cool. And I've heard about a lot of this stuff before. So just like hearing your story with that and going to Canada and having that program, and I think it's just amazing. And like all those people coming together, I think we need so much more of that. But I want to give you, like, if there's something like you want to say that we didn't really cover, or like any.
Yeah, I don't think so. Community is medicine. That's what I'll say.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So is. Well, guys, as always, we'll end with a quote, and I do hope you guys reach out to Elaine. I think if you're struggling with depression or wanting to be more in contact with, other people, or in touch with your own body and how you're feeling, this is a great way to do that. So definitely reach out. We'll put links in there, and then I'm going to give you this quote as we end. And don't forget, if you like this, want to hear more stuff, please subscribe to the YouTube channel or to our Spotify or Google or Apple podcast, and share it with others. I appreciate that. But here we go. Listening is an art that requires attention over talent, spirit over ego, and others over self. And that's Dean Jackson. Thanks for listening. We'll see you the next time.
Thank you.